After my father-in-law was hospitalized, my wife voluntarily handed over control of her paycheck. Honey, the expenses are just going to be too much, you know? I hope you can understand. After all, you're his son-in-law. Oh, I understood. How could I not? So I turned right around and gave my mother-in-law access to my bank account, too. Mom, you should manage both of ours. A family is supposed to pull together in tough times, right? Then I walked away and called my boss, who's also my best friend. Hey, from now on, just direct deposit $2,000 a month into my checking. Keep the rest for me on the side. If they wanted a devoted son-in-law, I was going to give them the most devoted son-in-law they had ever seen. Our son needs money for his advanced STEM program. Mom, I'll leave that to you. We're out of groceries. We'll just head over to my mother-in-law's for dinner. The mortgage and utility bills are due. Mom, you've got our bank info. They always used to say I wasn't doing enough for the family. Well, this time, I was going to do everything. Let's see who gives up first. Chris, my dad's in the hospital. You need to get here now. Over the phone, Chloe's voice was choked with tears. I immediately told my boss I had an emergency and drove straight to downtown General Hospital. In the hospital room, my father-in-law was lying on the bed, his face pale, with tubes running in and out of him. Chloe and my mother-in-law, Helen, stood beside him, their eyes red and swollen from crying. The doctor said it was a stroke. He needed long-term care. They'd saved his life, but there was a high probability of paralysis on his left side. Standing outside the room, Helen grabbed my hand, her voice trembling. Chris, the treatment for this is going to be expensive. The financial burden on the family. It's going to get heavier. I nodded. Mom, don't worry. We're family. We'll face this together. She patted my hand, relieved. Hearing you say that puts my mind at ease. That night, back at home, Chloe was slumped on the sofa, a storm cloud on her face. Honey, Dad will be in a hospital for at least 2 months, and then he'll need physical therapy. The medical bills could hit $30,000 or $40,000. Don't worry. I tried to soothe her. We have insurance. We'll figure out the out-of-pocket costs together. Chloe hesitated for a moment. I was thinking, maybe I should give Mom control of my bank account. She's all alone taking care of Dad and worrying about money. It's too much for her. My stomach dropped. Chloe brings in about $70,000 a year, and I make around $90,000. Her income is a significant part of our budget. If she handed it over, all our household expenses would land squarely on my shoulders. Are you sure? I asked. What about the mortgage, the car payments, Leo's school fees? Chloe looked down at her hands. Mom said she'd give us enough for basic living expenses. She said you'd probably have to pick up the rest. After all, she added, her voice quiet, you're his son-in-law. Son-in-law. The word stuck in my throat like a fishbone. In 5 years of marriage, I had done everything I could for her parents. I bought them thoughtful gifts for Christmas and birthdays, dropped everything to help when they had a problem, and split the school run for our son, Leo, with Chloe. But when it really mattered, I was always the son-in-law, never the son. Meanwhile, Chloe's younger brother, Kevin, who was barely ever around, showing up once a year for Christmas, if that, was still the golden child in Helen's eyes. Chloe was waiting for my answer. I took a deep breath, pushing down the resentment. Okay, I get it. It's a tough situation for the family. We have to pull together. She let out a sigh of relief, a flicker of gratitude in her eyes. Thank you, honey. I knew you'd understand. The next morning, Chloe eagerly called her mother to announce our decision. Even from 10 feet away, I could hear the pure joy in Helen's voice on the other end of the line. Of course she was happy. My salary, with commissions, was around $7,500 a month. That was more than enough to support our entire extended family, with plenty left over. The leftover money, she'd claim, was being saved for us. But I bet my life that money was like throwing a steak to a wolf. We'd never see it again. I knew exactly what kind of person my mother-in-law was. She'd haggle over the price of tomatoes at the farmer's market, but would spend money like water when it came to buying her precious son, Kevin, a new car, or helping with a down payment on a condo. She could easily invent a list of expenses, medical bills, special diets, private nursing fees, and claim it was all gone. I'd have no way to prove otherwise. Her father-in-law had just been hospitalized, and she was already pulling a stunt like this. Who knew what else she had planned down the road? If I just rolled over and took it, I'd be under their thumb for the rest of my life. While Chloe was on the phone sharing the good news with her mom, I made a call on my own to my boss and childhood friend, Jason. I gave him the short version of the story. Look, starting next month, I only want you to direct deposit $2,000 into my checking account. Hold on to the rest for me. I'll let you know when I need it. Jason was silent for a second. What's going on, man? You in some kind of trouble? That's Jason for you. After I explained the whole situation, he wasn't just supportive. He was ready to go to war for me. $2,000 is too generous for that old bat, he said. Honestly, I think you should just have me send like 500 just to make it look good. Don't worry, I told him. I'll be eating their food and living in their house with a free maid to boot. For $2,000 a month. I'm not the one getting screwed. Allicht, man. Your call, Jason said. Just don't let them actually drive you crazy. I'll be fine, I said with a dark laugh. I just want to see how far they're willing to take this game. Just as I hung up, Chloe finished her call. She turned to me, beaming. Mom said we should start coming over to her place for dinner every night. She promised she'd make us all her best dishes, even her famous pot roast. Chloe looked so pleased with herself, as if she'd just won the lottery. I just nodded. That's great. It's nice of her to go to all that trouble. But in my head, I was thinking, since my in-laws and my own wife believe that as the son-in-law, I should carry more of the weight, then I'll be the most devoted son-in-law they could ever imagine. Let's show them what real family devotion looks like. To that weekend, Chloe and I went over to her mom's house. With a sense of ceremony, Chloe handed her mother her debit card. Mom, I want you to manage my account. Dad's treatment is the most important thing. You should be in charge of the family's money. Helen took the card, a satisfied glint in her eye. You're a good daughter, Chloe. I'll manage everything. I promise you two won't feel a thing. She then asked pointedly, So, what day of the month do you two get paid? The 15th, I replied. Payday's next week. Hearing that, Helen's smile grew even wider. Chloe turned to me, her eyes full of expectation. I knew my cue. I pulled my own debit card from my wallet and handed it to Helen with both hands. Mom, you should take mine too. A family is supposed to share the burden and stick together through thick and thin. Helen froze for a second, clearly not expecting me to be so compliant. She took the card, her voice thick with emotion. Chris, you're a good man. Chloe squeezed my hand, her eyes shining with gratitude. I smiled and nodded, thinking to myself, the show is just getting started. You must be starving, Helen said warmly. Come on, let's eat. I've been cooking since this morning. I am exhausted. I glanced at the dining table. 2 side dishes and a soup. A simple cucumber salad, a plate of steamed green beans, and a bowl of watery pork rib soup. I could count the number of ribs on one hand. I'm getting older, so I prefer lighter meals, Helen explained. And you young people are always on a diet, right? I hate wasting food, so I didn't make too much. She was lying through her teeth. I have a huge appetite and the metabolism of a hummingbird. I've never put on a pound in my life. The word diet isn't in my vocabulary. I laughed. Oh, you didn't know, Mom? I'm the kind of guy grandparents love. I'm not a picky eater, and I can eat a ton. Don't worry about not liking meat yourself. As long as I'm here, nothing will go to waste. As I spoke, I reached over and scooped all 3 pork ribs from the soup into my bowl. Before she could react, I'd already eaten them. She realized what was happening and quickly joined the battle for the remaining scraps. Ignoring the dark looks from Chloe and her mother, I ate until I was full, then stood up and left the table. The first few days after handing over our finances went smoothly enough. Helen transferred $1,000 to Chloe for living expenses, and we managed to get by. Then Leo's teacher called to remind us that the fee for his advanced STEM program, $1,200, was due next week. Honey, what are we going to do about the STEM program fee? I asked Chloe. Chloe bit her lip. Should we? Ask Mom. I nodded. Of course. We gave her control of our money. Our son's education is her responsibility now. That evening, we went to the hospital to visit my father-in-law and brought up the subject with Helen. Mom, Leo's STEM program fee is due next week. It's $1,200, Chloe said quietly. Helen frowned. That much? Why are these programs so expensive these days? I know, but Leo has a real talent for math. His teacher specifically recommended it, Chloe explained. Helen sighed. Look, I can give you $800. You'll have to figure out the rest. Things are tight right now, We all have to cut back. I noticed her eyes dart away as she said it. Mom, we gave you our debit cards. We don't have any extra cash, I stated plainly. Helen looked uncomfortable. Well, then maybe you should skip it this semester. You can sign up again when we're in a better financial spot. On the way home, Chloe was despondent. Leo is finally good at something, and we have to let it go. I took her hand. Don't worry, I got an idea. The next day, I left work early and went straight to my mother-in-law's house. She was in the kitchen getting dinner ready and was surprised to see me. Chris, what are you doing here? Came to bum a meal, Mom, I said with a grin. We're out of food at home, and the grocery store is a trek. I figured you'd have something good cooking. Helen paused, then forced a smile. All right, then. I'll just make a little extra. During dinner, I had Leo join us. He and his grandma were all smiles, and Leo ate like a champ. As we were getting ready to leave, I casually brought it up. By the way, Mom, about Leo's STEM program. Helen put down her fork, her expression turning tense. About that. Leo, why don't you tell Grandma how much you love your math class? I prompted my son softly. Leo's eyes lit up. Grandma, I got the highest score on our last class quiz. My teacher said if I keep it up, I could compete in the math Olympiad next year. Helen's expression softened. Looking at her grandson's excited face, she finally nodded. Okay, Fine. I'll pay for the STEM program. But you have to study hard, you hear? Don't let your grandma down. Leo cheered and threw his arms around her. Thank you, Grandma. I'll be the best student ever. On the drive home, Chloe asked, How on earth did you convince my mom? I shrugged. I didn't do much. Just brought Leo over for a free meal. She started asking another question, but I changed the subject. Hey, we're out of groceries for tomorrow. Why don't we just eat at your mom's again? What? Chloe looked at me, shocked. We can't go every day, can we? Why not? I said seriously. We gave Mom all our money. It's her job to make sure we're fed. Besides, it's a good chance for us to spend more time with her, right? Chloe hesitated, but didn't argue. And so, I started taking Chloe and Leo to my mother-in-law's for dinner almost every single day. And every time, just like the first, I'd make sure to pile my plate high with whatever meat was available. Mom, you said you were going to take care of US, didn't you? You know I've got a big appetite. This little bit of meat isn't going to cut it. Helen's face grew darker each day, but she couldn't bring herself to refuse me. At first, she seemed happy to have a bustling house, thinking I was just being a good son-in-law. But after a while, her patience clearly wore thin. Don't you think it's a little inconvenient, coming here to eat every day? It's a lot of work for one person to cook this much. I immediately feigned understanding. You're right, Mom. How about this? From now on, I'll do the grocery shopping, and you can just do the cooking. That should make it easier on you. Helen's eyes went wide. The notice from the Homeowners Association arrived. HOA fees and utilities were due, totaling $480. Chloe looked at me, worried. Honey, the money Mom gave us for the month is almost gone. How are we going to pay this? Don't worry, I said, full of confidence. I'll handle it. That evening, I took the family to Helen's again. After dinner, I pulled her aside. Mom, the HOA and utility bills are due. It's $480. What should we do? Helen's brow furrowed. Why so much? Are you two wasting electricity? Not at all, Mom. I explained patiently. It's just our normal usage. You can look at the bill if you want. She took the bill, scanned it, and finally sighed. Fine, I'll give you the money. But you two really need to be more frugal. We're in a difficult situation. I took the cash from her. Thanks, Mom. But don't you worry. Our paychecks are with you. I know you'll manage everything perfectly. Her expression was a mix of emotions, but she didn't say anything else. On the way home, Chloe couldn't hold back anymore. Honey, are you deliberately trying to make my mom's life difficult? I feigned shock. What? Of course not. I'm just doing what a good son-in-law should. We gave Mom our income, so she should be responsible for our expenses. What's wrong with that? Chloe had no answer. We kept going to her house for dinner almost every day, and every major expense was billed directly to her. Helen's mood soured, but in front of Chloe, she couldn't say a word. Chris, could you maybe not come over for dinner every single night? Helen had finally reached her breaking point. I put on an innocent face. Is something wrong, Mom? I thought you enjoyed the company. She gritted her teeth. It's not that I don't enjoy it, it's too much. I'm not young anymore. Cooking a huge meal every day is exhausting. You're absolutely right, I said, nodding sympathetically. Okay, how about this? We'll only come over 5 days a week. How's that sound? Helen let out a breath of relief. That's more reasonable. I nodded, then changed gears. Oh, by the way, Mom, the mortgage payment is due. It's $200. What's the plan? The color drained from her face. That much? Yeah, I sighed. The interest rate was high when we bought the place. If it's too much of a burden, we can always figure something else out. What do you mean, something else? Sell the house, I said calmly. Once we sell it, we can just move in here with you. We'd save a fortune on the mortgage, and you'd have people around to help take care of you. It's a win-win. Helen's face froze. She knew exactly what I was implying. Her old house was barely 900 square feet. With the three of us moving in, there wouldn't be room to breathe. More importantly, she hated having a crowded, noisy house. No, that won't be necessary, she said through clenched teeth. I'll pay the mortgage. I smiled. Thanks, Mom. You really do worry so much about us. As we left, Chloe finally snapped. Chris, that was completely out of line. My mother's an old woman. Why are you cornering her like that? I stopped walking and looked her straight in the eye. Out of line? Who was the one who handed over her paycheck to her mom in the first place? Who was the one who told me that because I'm the son-in-law, I should be expected to carry more of the weight? But I cut her off. I'm just playing by the rules you two set. All of our income goes to her, so all of the expenses are her responsibility. Is there a problem with that logic? Chloe was speechless. If you think this is unfair to your mom, I continued, then get our bank cards back and we'll handle our own finances. She looked down, but my mom really does need the money. Dad's medical bills are so high. Exactly, I said, my tone softening slightly. So don't tell me I'm being out of line. I'm just being the son-in-law you all wanted me to be. Chloe went quiet, but I could see the conflict raging inside her. On one hand, she believed her parents needed financial support. On the other, she was witnessing my rebellion firsthand. She was caught in the middle, torn in two. And that was exactly what I wanted. Only by forcing her to see how dysfunctional this family dynamic was would she start to reconsider what true filial piety, or just being a good daughter, really meant. Kevin was back. Kevin was Chloe's younger brother, 6 years her junior, who was supposedly running a business down south. On the surface, he looked successful, driving a luxury car and wearing designer clothes. In reality, he was drowning in debt and constantly hitting up his parents for money. But Helen doted on her youngest, granting his every wish. Kevin claimed he was back to visit his sick father, but I knew he was after something. Sure enough, after a brief visit to his dad at the hospital, Kevin cornered Helen. Mom, I've got this new project, and I need about $30,000 to get off the ground. Do you think you could? I sat nearby, watching the scene unfold with cold detachment. Helen hesitated. That's a lot of money, sweetie. Things are so tight right now with your father's medical bills. Mom, come on, Kevin interrupted. I know Chris and Chloe gave you their bank cards. Just take a little from their accounts. I swear I'll pay it back in 6 months with interest. My jaw tightened. So that was his game. He knew we had handed over our finances and had come back to claim his share of the loot. Helen shot a nervous glance in my direction. I don't know, Kevin. That's their hard-earned money. What's the big deal? We're family, Kevin scoffed. Chris won't mind. Right, Chris? Every eye in the room turned to me. I smiled. Of course I don't mind. On one condition. What condition? Kevin asked, suddenly wary. Mom has to agree to one little request of mine. Helen frowned. What request? I spoke slowly and deliberately. Starting next month, you will be responsible for every single one of our family's expenses. The mortgage, the car payments, Leo's school fees, our daily living costs, everything. Since you're holding all our money, you can spend it however you see fit. That includes the $30,000 you're lending to Kevin. It's all your call. The color drained from Helen's face. I don't think that's appropriate. Why not? I shot back. Didn't we give you our cards so you could manage the family finances? If that's the case, then you should be the one to manage all the family's expenses. But, no buts, I said, cutting her off again. If you think this is inappropriate, then give us our cards back. We'll manage our own money, and we can discuss the loan for Kevin separately. The room was dead silent. Kevin looked stunned. clearly not expecting me to be so blunt. Helen's face was a spectacular canvas of anger and embarrassment. Chloe stood to the side, watching me with a complicated expression. Finally, Helen made her decision. Fine, I agree to your terms, but I can only give you $1,500 a month for living expenses, she added quickly. The rest is really tight. I shook my head. No, Mom, all expenses. Between Chloe and me, we make over $13,000 a month. There's no way you can't cover our costs. Unless, I pause for effect. You've been using the money for something else? Helen's face fell. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Kevin suddenly shot to his feet. What's that supposed to mean, Chris? Are you accusing my mom of misusing your money? I looked at him calmly. I didn't say that. I'm just trying to clarify why we handed over our paychecks in the first place. If the goal was to genuinely help the family through a crisis, then the money should be spent where it's needed most, not on funding the ventures of a serial failed entrepreneur. Kevin's face turned crimson. But then again, I continued, if Mom thinks lending you money is more important, that's her choice. As long as she can guarantee that our family's basic needs are met, I have no objection. Helen took a deep breath and forced a smile. All right, that's enough. No more fighting. I accept Chris's terms. I'll cover all of your expenses each month. She turned to Kevin. As for the money you need, sweetie, Mom will figure something out, okay? Kevin grumbled, but didn't press the issue. On the drive home, Chloe was silent for a long time. Finally, she said softly, You did that on purpose, didn't you? I didn't deny it. Yes. Why? Because I wanted you to see exactly what your mother intends to do with our money. Chloe bit her lip. She's doing it for Dad's medical bills. Is that all? I countered. If it was just for medical bills, why did she immediately hesitate the second Kevin asked for money? Chloe had no answer. I took her hand. Look, Chloe, it's not that I don't want to help your parents. But there's a difference between helping and being exploited. Your mother doesn't just want help. She wants total control of our finances, so she can do whatever she wants with them. And what she wants, more often than not, is to funnel our hard-earned money straight into Kevin's pocket. Chloe was quiet for a long time before letting out a sigh. I understand, but are we hurting her by doing this? Sometimes a little conflict is necessary, I said softly. It's the only way to build a family relationship that's actually healthy. Chloe nodded, lost in thought. 5 after Helen agreed to cover all our expenses, life got a little easier. The mortgage and car payments were made on time, and Leo's school fees were no longer an issue. But I noticed that her attitude toward Kevin hadn't changed. She eventually agreed to give him the money he wanted. Not the full $30,000, but a significant amount paid in installments. Where did that money come from? I had a pretty good idea. Unsurprisingly, she started nickel-and-diming our living expenses. The generous budget she promised was cut back. Things are tight right now, she'd say. You two need to be more careful with spending. Meanwhile, Kevin was suddenly driving a new car, a used one he claimed that cost $30,000. Whenever Chloe questioned it, Helen would snap. He earned that money himself. It has nothing to do with us. But we both knew Kevin's business wasn't making that kind of money. That 30 grand almost certainly came from our salaries. What infuriated me more was that Chloe actually defended him. Honey, it's not easy for him trying to start a business. He needs the capital to... You're still defending him? I looked at her in disbelief. He's driving around in a car bought with our money, and you making excuses for him? Chloe looked away. I'm not making excuses. It's just he's my brother. I let out a cold, bitter laugh. Right, he's your brother. So in your mind, your brother will always be more important than your husband. Is that it? That's not true, she said quickly. Of course I love you, it's just... Just what? I stared into her eyes. Just that when push comes to shove, you will always side with your family over our family. Her silence was more damning than any argument. I took a deep breath and decided it was time to continue my campaign of devotion. If Helen wanted to control her finances, I was going to let her experience what total control really felt like. I started dropping Leo off at her house after school to do his homework. Mom, there's no one to watch Leo after school, so I'll just bring him here. You can help him with his homework, and we'll pick him up in the evening. She reluctantly agreed. A few days later, I made a new proposal. Mom, Leo says your cooking is way better than ours. Why don't we just start eating dinner here too? Helen's face fell. Every night? I don't think that's a good idea. I put on my most sincere expression. Why not? You're in charge of our living expenses, right? Instead of giving us cash, it's more efficient if you just cook for us. You'll save money that way. She was trapped. So we started having dinner at her house every night. Leo was thrilled to spend so much time with his grandma. Helen, on the other hand, looked miserable, but she couldn't show it in front of her grandson. It wasn't long before I had another brilliant idea. Mom, our washing machine broke down, and it's expensive to fix. I was thinking, since we're here every day anyway, we could just bring our laundry over and do it here. That was the last straw. Chris, what in the world are you trying to do? She finally exploded. I feigned surprise. Mom, did I do something wrong? I'm just trying to be a good son-in-law. You call this being a good son-in-law? She trembled with rage. You are deliberately trying to make my life a living hell. I put down the laundry basket and looked at her seriously. Mom, I don't know what you mean. I gave you my paycheck. It's only natural that you'd manage our household affairs. We eat here, our son does his homework here, we do our laundry here. Aren't we just trying to make things easier on you? It's much safer than carrying cash around. This way, you can save a little here and there. Maybe you can even lend a little more to Kevin. My words left her speechless, her face turning shades of red and white. She stared at me for a long moment before hissing, Fine, you got guts. I see what this is. You're trying to get back at me. I just smiled and shook my head. No, Mom, you've misunderstood. I'm simply fulfilling my duties as a son-in-law. Since you believe I should carry more of the burden, I'm just trying to do my absolute best not to disappoint you. She was so angry she couldn't speak. Chloe, who had been watching from the sidelines, couldn't take it anymore. That's enough, Chris. Stop it. Mom, don't be angry. He's just blunt. That's his personality. She turned to me. Let's just go home. Stop bothering Mom all the time. I nodded and picked up the laundry bag. Okay, but what about these clothes? Helen snatched the bag from my hand. Leave it. I'll wash them. She bit off each word, clearly pushed to her absolute limit. On the way home, Chloe complained. You've gone too far. My mother is an old woman. Why are you tormenting her like this? Tormenting her? I shot back. I'm just playing by her rules. She took our money, so she's responsible for our lives. What's the problem? Chloe was quiet for a moment, then said softly, but you know she can't handle it. Then she can give us our money back, I said, my voice like steel. Otherwise, I will continue to be the most devoted son-in-law she has ever seen. Chloe looked at me, a strange emotion in her eyes. You've changed, Chris. You never used to be like this. A bitter smile touched my lips. You're right, I have changed. Because I've learned that kindness and patience don't earn your respect. They just invite people to take more from you. She didn't say anything else, but I could feel her resentment. It wasn't directed at her mother's blatant favoritism, but at my rebellion against it. In that moment, I realized that Chloe was just like her mother. She would always protect her original family, even if it meant sacrificing our own. The realization felt like a knife in my gut. Helen's attitude began to soften. She stopped complaining about us coming for dinner and even offered to increase our living allowance. Chris, I can see that things have been tight for you lately. How about I give you $2,000 a month? Would that help? I smiled and shook my head. No thanks, Mom. Instead of giving us cash, we'd rather just keep coming here for meals. That way you get to see your grandson more often. It's perfect. The smile froze on her face. But it's a lot of work for me to cook. No problem, I said magnanimously. I can help. You give the orders, I'll do the work. How's that? She had no choice but to agree. And so, I started helping in my mother-in-law's kitchen every day. My help consisted of making a colossal mess, which I would then watch her frantically clean up. She tried to kick me out of the kitchen several times, but I always deflected with the excuse of being devoted. Mom, you're getting older. You need a rest. Let me handle the cooking. My skills aren't great, but it's the thought that counts, right? All she could do was swallow her anger. My father-in-law's condition suddenly worsened. He needed major surgery. The doctor said that between the operation and the follow-up care, it would cost at least $40,000. Helen was frantic. Where are we going to get that kind of money? Chloe, her eyes red, asked, Mom, don't you have our bank cards? You must have saved up a good amount over the past 6 months, right? Helen stammered, Well, there's some, but it's nowhere near enough. I already knew the answer, but I asked anyway. Mom, where did the money go? She couldn't meet my eyes. Household expenses have been high. Your father's medications. Is that really all? I pressed. She fell silent. Just then, Kevin stepped forward. What's that supposed to mean, Chris? Are you accusing my mom of using your money? I laughed coldly. I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but we have a right to know where our money went. It was our sweat and blood, after all. Helen finally looked up, tears in her eyes. Phoenix, I'll tell you the truth. I lent a portion of the money to Kevin. He said he was in a jam. The room was deathly quiet. Chloe's face went pale. Mom, how could you? He said he only needed it for a month. He promised he'd pay it back right away. Helen cried. I thought I could cover it. I turned to Kevin. A month. Where's the money now? Kevin avoided my gaze. My business ran into some trouble. Trouble, I said, my voice dripping with ice. What about that new car of yours? Where did the money for that come from? Kevin was speechless. I turned back to Helen. Mom, I don't blame you for wanting to help your son, but you can't use our money to fund his taste for luxury. Now, Dad needs surgery. Where is that money going to come from? I'll ask our relatives for a loan. She sobbed. They won't lend it to you, I stated flatly. Who's going to lend you that kind of money? Especially when they find out Kevin can't even pay back his other debts. Who would be crazy enough to lend you more? Silence again. Finally, I made a decision. All right, I'll figure something out. But on one condition. Helen looked up. What condition? Give us our bank cards back. She was stunned. But we need the money now more than ever. Exactly, I said calmly. Which is why we need to be in control of our own income to maximize how we can help. You've already proven that you can't distribute the funds fairly. You always put Kevin first, neglecting the people who actually need it. Shame washed over Helen's face, and she hung her head. Chloe spoke softly beside her. Mom, just give us the cards back. We'll figure out the money for the surgery. In the end, Helen relented. She pulled my card and Chloe's from her purse and handed them over. I am sorry, she whispered. I took the cards, a storm of emotions churning inside me. This battle, I had finally won, but it didn't feel like a victory. Over the next few days, Chloe and I scrambled and managed to pull the money together. I used a chunk of my own savings that I kept with Jason. Chloe sold some of her jewelry, and we borrowed the rest from a few close friends. We just barely made the $40,000. Surprisingly, Kevin also came up with $10,000, saying he wanted to do his part. My father-in-law's surgery was a success. The doctor said that with good recovery, he could be living a mostly normal life within 6 months. In a hospital room, Helen held my hand, tears streaming down her face. Chris, thank you. If you hadn't raised the money, my husband might have. I shook my head. You don't have to thank me, Mom. We're family. This only made her cry harder. I'm so sorry. I never should have taken your money to help Kevin. Mom, I sighed. I don't blame you for loving your son. Every mother has a favorite. That's normal. But a family has to be built on mutual respect and fairness. You can't take our money with one hand and give it away for the wrong reasons with the other. She nodded. I understand. It won't happen again. Chloe stepped in. Mom, don't beat yourself up. Dad's surgery was a success. That's what matters. Helen wiped her eyes. You're right. As long as he's okay. She shot a stern look at Kevin. And you will pay back every penny you owe your sister and Chris. Kevin hung his head, looking genuinely ashamed for the first time. I know, Mom. On the way home, Chloe slipped her arm through mine. Thank you, Chris, she said softly. I was a little surprised. For what? For getting the money for the surgery. For saving my dad. I squeezed her hand. It's what I'm supposed to do. She leaned her head on my shoulder. You know, at first, I was so angry. I thought you were just attacking my mom. But now I get it. You were just trying to make them understand what real family responsibility is. I smiled faintly. I just didn't want all our hard work to be for nothing. We work our asses off not to pay for your brother's expensive toys, but to build a life for our own family, which includes helping your parents when they truly need it. Chloe nodded. You're right. From now on, we manage our own money, but we'll still do everything we can to help them. Of course, I said. That's our duty. We just needed to change the terms. I thought that was the end of it. The end of the war over what it meant to be devoted. I had used extreme tactics to force everyone to see the truth, not to hurt anyone, but to build a healthier, fairer family dynamic. I couldn't have been more wrong. 7 after my father-in-law came home from the hospital, things changed. Helen was much kinder to me, and the word son-in-law was no longer used like an accusation. Kevin also seemed to have straightened up, and he actually started paying us back, $500 a month. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Chloe and I agreed to give her parents $800 a month to help with their expenses, with the understanding that we discuss any other major costs as they came up. It seemed like a reasonable, stable solution. But then I started to notice Chloe's behavior. She was getting frequent calls from Kevin, and she would always take them in another room. One day, I happened to see a notification on her phone, a $1,500 transfer to Kevin. "What is this?" I asked her, my voice dangerously calm. She stammered. "Kevin, he said he was having some cash flow problems." "So you're secretly sending him money again?" I scoffed. "After everything that's happened, you're still doing this?" "He's my brother," she argued. "I can't just watch him struggle." "And what about me?" I looked her dead in the eye. "I'm your husband. We have our own family. We have Leo's future to think about. Why don't you ever think about us?" She went silent. I continued, "It took everything I had to pull us out from under your mother's thumb and build something fair. And here you are, secretly funneling money to Kevin again. What's the difference between this and before?" She lifted her chin, a stubborn glint in her eyes. "There is a difference. Before, it was my mom taking our money. This time, it's my decision." "Your decision?" I laughed, a hollow sound. "So, do I even have a place in this family anymore? Did you think for 1 second about asking me before you made this decision?" Her voice suddenly rose. "Why should I have to ask for your permission for everything? It's my money. I can spend it however I want." Her words hit me like a bucket of ice water. In that instant, I understood. No matter what I did, Chloe's loyalty would always be to her original family. In her eyes, I would always be the outsider. "Fine," I said, nodding slowly. "If that's how you feel, then maybe it's time we went our separate ways." She stared at me, stunned. "What are you talking about?" "A divorce," I said simply. "Clearly, your brother is more important to you than your husband. So what's the point of me being here?" "Are you insane?" she shrieked. "No, I've never been more clear-headed." I started gathering my things. "I'm taking Leo with me. He deserves to grow up in a normal home." Panic flashed in her eyes. "No, Leo is my son. He's my son too," I said, my voice firm. "And I have more than enough evidence to prove you've been a negligent mother. You've secretly given away money meant for our family. If you want to fight me on this, I have no problem telling a judge the entire story." She burst into tears. "How could you do this?" "You're the one who betrayed this family, Chloe." I shot back. I really thought that after everything we went through, my whole extreme devotion game, you would finally understand what was important. But I was wrong. You'll never change. Helen rushed over when she heard the news, furious. "Chris, what is this nonsense? You're going to get a divorce over a little money." I gave her a cold look. "And the story about how Kevin scammed you out of our savings? That's a great cautionary tale. I'll be sure to share it with all the neighbors." Chloe's face was twisted in anger. "Fine, get a divorce. See if I care. You'll regret this." The day we signed the divorce papers, she repeated her threat. "It won't be long before you come crawling back." Women, they always have such a misplaced confidence in themselves. But the real world has a way of teaching harsh lessons. Not long after we split, Kevin's business imploded. It turned out he'd used the money from Chloe for a high-risk investment that went belly up. He didn't just lose her money. He was buried in debt. When the creditors started calling Chloe, she finally realized her money was gone for good. To make matters worse, Kevin had the audacity to ask her for more money to pay off his debts, talking about the priceless bond of family. By then, Chloe remembered my warnings, but it was far too late. Then, as if on cue, her father's health took another turn. He needed another surgery. This time, however, there was no succor of a son-in-law to come to the rescue. The whole family was in a panic. Eventually, Helen swallowed her pride and came to me, asking if I could help. I refused without a second thought. "I'm sorry, but we're divorced. This is your family's problem, not mine." She trembled with rage. "How can you be so heartless?" I laughed. "Heartless? Who was the one who took our paychecks? Who secretly gave our money to her son so he could buy a car? Now that there's a problem, you remember me? Besides, didn't Chloe say it was her money to spend however she wants?" Let her figure it out. In the end, Chloe had to sell their house to pay for her father's medical bills. In the blink of an eye, she went from a comfortable, middle-class life to renting a cramped apartment. And Kevin? He skipped town to dodge his debts, vanished without a trace. Finally free of that entire family, Leo and I could finally start our lives over.